I've just seen more and more miracles. I've seen people with 10 years of PTSD gone in a weekend. I first had a breakthrough session and everyone everyone saw a difference. Even my mom was like, "Oh my God, you look so different." And my voice, I'll never forget, was like really low, like afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
hello everyone, how are you? Like, oh my gosh, Lance, what happened? I was like, I don't know. My voice is like low. Like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel relaxed. Like, I don't know what happened. Does this shit actually work? And then she reread back like my original breakthrough. I'm like, I don't feel any of that. Well, Dad is an asshole, but that's fine. Like, so am I. Whatever. I was like, look, man, if you keep pulling the same type of girl, or hey, sweetheart, if you keep on pulling in the same type of abusive guy, you can't keep just pointing to the guy. Well, you've pulled in the same dude, the 10 different names, but don't look kind of the same and act the same and kind of be the same. It's the same story. Well,
Yeah.
there's probably something in you that's attracting that energetically that needs to be healed.
I'm just gonna start. We're just gonna start. Here we are. This is Lance. Tell me what your inspiration is.
I was just thinking today the importance, of just any kind of action. Like I know you and I preach like these four requisites for change, which is totally true.
Mhm.
I've been using something lately called a garden analogy. And I tell my clients, look, it's this simple. Let's pretend you got some dirt outside and you want to make a garden of some kind. Well, first,
Mhm.
what do? We got to break up. We got to break up that old dirt. We got to release the old baggage. It's time to pull out the inner root or the deepest piece or whatever, right? Can't cut the root at the top. We got to plow it and dig it and toss it. Cool.
Right.
Then released. What's two? What's goal set? Why not get into action yet? Because we need to know what the heck we're doing. What are we planting? What are we
Right.
putting in here? Well, is it a rose garden? Because maybe you thought of like a peach thing, or is it for the family? What is it for? What are we doing here? Okay, great.
Mhm.
Now we have an understanding. Cool. Three, do it. Do the action, do the thing, or whatever it is that starts slowly progressing you towards whatever number four is, your focus. Who you want to become, why you're doing it. Well, it's to share the love with my wife. It's to provide cherries for my kids, and to create that connection of something we get to share and bond together, right?
Yeah.
The thing I want to share with you too, specifically about action in particular, that I just really love is that, so like talk about this PDF I was just sharing with you, right? Like
Mhm.
this little PDF was just first off as a 2 or 3 pager. Congratulations. Here's the 4 steps to create change. A little sentence on each one. At the end, congrats. Here's a free call. And I was like,
Mhm.
that just didn't feel like enough for me. And then it turned into a 4-part vid or 5-part video series, and then a 10-page PDF. And then I thought, shoot, I could use this for a speaking engagement, which is now a full 22-page booklet now, right?
Yeah.
And
It's
not
just
necessarily
expanded
was
from there.
Yeah, not necessarily was the first one the wrong one or something, right? That doesn't matter. We're doing action that gets you to progress towards the goal. And sometimes that's all we really need.
Oh, speaking my language. I love it. It's so good. I love it when you get inspirations of like download too. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so because we are having this conversation today, and there's obviously people who don't know exactly what you do, and we do a lot of the same stuff, but I would love for you to just share before we jump into other stuff that we're both so passionate about. Let us know who you are and what is your why. Why do you do what you do?
Sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Lance Dewbre. I'm the president of the Clarity Coaching Center. I've been doing healing and release work since my early teens with my father, who was known as an inner healing pastor. Studied around 20 different modalities, including about a couple thousand hours now of integrative psychology, which, as you know, Sadie is a big fan of as well. We also do some Huna, ancient Hawaiian healing arts. And for those who don't know, the real magic of this that really blows my mind is really the step one, which is releasing, because I've just never known tools that can actually help you get to the root of a problem and let it go in such a drastic way. You could actually read information back and not even feel the same anymore. So these
Mhm.
processes, guys, were built by about, imagine like 20 doctors of psychology, some who have 4 or 5 doctors each, came together with the sole purpose of just trying to help people heal, which is my big why. I had a lot of doctors, a lot of psychologists and counselors, 20, like I said, 20 something healing modalities to try, just wanted to fix me, just was tired of feeling sad or depressed or angry or overreactive. And like, or why can't I date the girl? Whatever that would be. Like, man, and I know I can be more. And growing up in that world, seeing a radical change of people having major forgiveness or getting over phobias or having these amazing experiences with God just blew my mind. And um, basically just really, re-fell in love with it recently. The last 3 or 4 years have done those extra 2,000 hours, and I've just seen more and more miracles. I've seen people with 10 years of PTSD gone in a weekend who tried
Mhm.
doctors and other things. I got another one that just tripled her business within one of our breakthrough session weekends that Sadie and I do, and so this stuff's real powerful, guys. I mean, it's life changing, and we both just that's why we geek out about it because it's real change that happens, and it's just not some fake whatever stuff. No, tools and techniques that create real lasting change.
You explained that so, so well, and it almost like makes my body feel lit up inside, like really passionate, and it brings me back to our like training days and just being in that energy. I feel like that's something that's so powerful and profound about what we do is I was thinking about this actually before we were going to meet today, and it really does feel like what we do is on the cutting edge of healing. It's not just like, let's try to make ourselves better, let's do personal development. It's like, no, this is the deep work. This is what needs to happen in order for us to go from a life that we don't like, being who we don't like, having things that we necessarily don't want to have or doing things we don't want to do and shifting and changing that to a totally transformed experience of not only ourselves but of our reality. And it's not years and years and years of just talk therapy. If that's what you want to do, that's totally cool, and I actually do that with some people because that's necessary. But this what we do is so profound, and it gets to the root of everything, like with your analogy of the plants and the soil. It's so funny that you say that, actually, because I was working with a client last week and I literally talked about that very same analogy. It was like we were all getting this download at the same time. But I'm like, we have to till the soil, we have to dig it up, we have to get uncomfortable, we have to mix some crap up so that we can
Get a little dirty,
gotta
get in
get
there,
a little
man. Your
dirty.
hands dirty, if not, what do you expect? Like, you got to put some energy, what you put in is what you get out. So you want to just stare at the ground? You want to grab a shovel and no, I'm going to create change in my life purposefully for some woo woo, feel good, whatever. No, this is intentional work using languaging that the mind loves from a group of people that wanted to create change, wanted to help, that studied all the best, brought the best. This is the best that exists, guys. We're just very lucky to have found it, and and you are lucky to be able to hear this, that you found people that are into this stuff, because this thing really creates. I mean, one of my favorite things to do, girl, is I've had one of my clients now 3 breakthrough sessions. And every once in a while, we'll just read back the old stuff. We'll just laugh together. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, I said that? Like, yeah, like, you called yourself a crazy ass bitch or whatever it is, He's like, man, that's rude. I'm not that crazy, and just being able to go back, even sometimes just simple things. I think people get stuck too, like, oh, I don't have the PTSD and the major stuff. I'm like, guys, but my client still was a multimillionaire and still tripled her business. It's not like you can, she still needed to release her belief that she's a single mom with multiple kids. She should be able to
Mhm.
do that. Well, she's
Mhm.
already here. She's already done it, and she's losing herself. And so we got to be able to work back together, and she got way back on sync, reconnects to her spirituality, which is her main driving force, is what she said. And as she did that, the business just took off because she got realigned with her values. She released these old ideas that I can't, won't, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't. No, no, I can, I will, I know what to do. And that
Mhm.
created now new momentum and new movement, which allowed her to hit the next level. She got congruent. Her teammates got congruent. Wow, crazy to think. Crazy.
So wild. I can't believe that that would have happened. You mean you changed your energy and your results changed? Oh, wow, I'm shocked.
Yeah,
That's
good old
amazing
trickle
though.
down effect, right? You help that
Yeah.
major one at the top, and when they're clear, the other people have more clarity as well. It's just what happens.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've been really involved in this idea lately that we learn in our training. And I think that I've like even expanded it wider to literally see every single thing that I have in my reality is a mirror reflection of what's inside of me. And there's great things and there's some less than great things. And those are all okay, right? Because in my opinion, being able to accept and unconditionally love everything that's here in the present moment is what gives us permission to then change it. If we, like we were talking about before we were recording, I've been in like a resisting pattern in some areas. And if I continue to resist things, then nothing's going to change. So continuing to shift into like, I'm accepting of what's going on here, that shifts the external reality. And what we have and the tools that we have to help people, that's really what's occurring is we're helping them recognize, like peel back the layers of things that are in your unconscious mind that you didn't even know were there. We can go
Yes.
back to being in utero and you felt rejected by your mother. And it's like you wouldn't have ever known that that's been preventing you from success in your life. But when we go digging in that soil, we find that we pull that wound out, help it heal, release what needs to be released, change any of the beliefs or transform rather what's happening from that initial wound. And then it's kind of peachy from there, right? You still have to take action, like you were saying earlier, but
I love what
it's,
you're saying. I have a great analogy actually is with the guy that had the 10 years of PTSD. So basically his legs got caught on fire. He lost 3 inches of the width of his legs. He only can walk because he was a bodybuilder, basically, on it with his legs. He was the leg guy I think it was the Navy. Yeah, the Navy. So you're gonna love what I'm gonna say because it's gonna what you just said makes so much sense. So because it even blew my mind. So what happened was is when we were doing our release work, right? We're going back to the time that like this happened, and I felt it, I didn't feel it going. And I was like, well, how do you still feel about this fire stuff? He's like, I don't know, man, because he couldn't even light a match, couldn't light a candle, like bad, bad.
yeah.
Um, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, go back to an earlier time. When was the first time that you didn't like maybe feel safe or something? And all of a sudden, his entire body was like, woof, shifts. He starts like tearing up. This whole like dropping happens in the room. And he's like, well, there's something about his dad did something, said something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but just some way of not feeling safe is just what I remember that word. My dad said I'm no longer safe, or I didn't feel safe with dad when I was 7. And as soon as
Mm.
we popped that, it all went away. Amazing. He literally got up and I was like, go light a match. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, right now, it's gone. Like I can see it. It's gone, dude. He goes, really? I'm like, yeah, really. He pops a match, starts tearing up. He's like, I usually would run out of the room. I'm not even shaking. Then this is what really was wild. He goes, I want you to put on a show of an old 1980s boxing film of this guy throwing some gas on someone. I go, I don't I don't know about that one. It's too much of a test. I mean, I'm confident, but I don't know. He goes, no, no, let's do it. I was like, well, shoot, let's do it. I ain't no pansy. Shoot, man, I put it up. I was having more reaction. The dude started yawning.
Wow.
I was like, this is a little intense for the 80s, man. He's like, oh, yeah, I used to run out of this part. Yeah, dude. Wow. Like, what do you mean, ah? Like I was amazed too. But again, that big lesson right there was even it wasn't the original event. It was a root from when we were kids and we had like this, new dynamic or a new shift. Oh, I'm no longer this, this, or this, and they create a new paradigm. So when the unconscious, it doesn't understand time, is able to go back and like pop that. It's called the Gestalt theory. It's just magic that happens, guys. The exact reasons why, I mean, I don't know if we can necessarily get into or science even exactly knows, but there is something about when you gain those learnings and you go behind it and you do these amazing imagination exercises where the brain like just loves the order of it. Like you'll feel an immense shift or a change. One of my favorite ones too was we worked with someone. Remember this girl goes to the bathroom, comes back, just 30 minutes, real quick tool. And she goes, oh, you remember it was our friend from Austin, Jordan, right? Is it Jordan? No, I haven't thought about her in a while. Anyway, we did a 30-minute tool, and she basically goes to the bathroom, comes back, and her eyes look like saucers. And I was like, "Are you okay? Like, did the tool not work? You look worse." Like, I was confused. And she goes, no, you won't believe what just happened, Lance. I go, what? I'm like, well, no, we were doing this like forgiveness exercise, right? I was like, yeah. She goes, well, my ex-fiance just called me. I haven't talked to him in years. And he just randomly called to apologize for the way he treated me all those years ago. You can't
Wow.
tell me there ain't some kind of connection to this, guys. I mean, I've seen it too
Yeah.
many times of like that amazing, whatever energetic cord we have all together, and some bigger eye of whatever this is.
100%. Yes. Yeah. That concept for me has led me down a lot of like learning about physics and quantum theory and how string theory works and how we're all connected by potentially this like singularity idea. I don't know. But my concept around, because we do MER, mental emotional release, and that is the gestalt theory that you're talking about. If anyone who's listening that doesn't know some of these like more technical terms, it's essentially the idea that your past is organized in a timeline fashion where like you are in utero, then you're a child, then you go into the teenage years and adult years, and that's all in like a quote unquote line. And whether or not you believe the actual line is real or not, your brain organizes information or can organize information in that way. And so when we do some of our tools that we use, or the therapy, the healing therapies that we use, we have you float above that line and float back to these past experiences that you've had and experience that experience that you had then. Almost, you don't have to experience the experience, but there's a connection that you have still to that point in time that has prevented you from being who you really are. And it's when you go back to those times and like quote unquote like pop the bubble. I think that's what you were explaining in that PTSD client that you worked with. Like you pop the bubble of whatever the belief is or the negative emotion, and that literally reconditions the entire timeline from that
Yes.
point to this point.
Yes,
It
it does.
literally reconditions the entire timeline, and it makes you in this present moment different in order to
Yes.
move on into a different version of yourself later.
Absolutely. So well said. It makes me laugh when I hear this because back in the day when I was helping my dad when I was 15, he would actually get upset and a little angry with people because they would have such a shift. They would actually forget. And I see it now with my clients. Like when I go back, they'll forget
Oh
stuff,
yeah, that happens to me all the
right?
time. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he
When
had
I
one,
do release work, yeah.
and he had no idea what was happening. He actually thought they were just randomly lying to him or something. It's like, what do you mean? I spent 3 hours with you. You had all this anger with your dad. He's like, I don't know, man. I'm not mad at dad. He's like, but you were. Like, is it all gone now? It's like, what do you mean? Like, he just couldn't figure, he didn't understand. They didn't have that
Yeah.
kind of tools back then, but now we have so much of a deeper understanding. Just in these last 30 years, guys, of what's going on in science has proved so much spirituality. I know there's a lot that don't maybe not up to par understanding, but what they're able to now realize is quite wild and quite spiritually accurate. So it's funny how science is coming all the way back around again.
Yeah, round the world. We used to think that we know everything. Now, potentially, some people recognize, well, we don't really know anything. And now they're coming back around to be like, oh, actually, our spiritual practices and our things that we've always known are actually real and we can prove them now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's what they meant.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Well, and I think that's, in my opinion, I feel like the traditional, and you can share with me what your opinion is, but I feel like the traditional way that most people are indoctrinated into like helping themselves is through therapy or talk therapy. That's just,
Our church.
or church. Yeah, a lot of people know that those are the methods to use. And I do believe that we need to have a spiritual component in order for us to like truly and genuinely heal. I feel like as human beings, we have to connect to what's greater than us in order for us to recognize who we really are. And that's just how I see it through my lens. Um, because sometimes I'll work with clients that they don't necessarily have a connection to any ideology or spirit or anything like that. And while I still very much respect their worldview, I'm not trying to change them. I notice that their progress is much slower than somebody who has a connection to their higher power, whatever that may be for them. Maybe it's higher self, maybe it's God, maybe it's Jesus, maybe it's Buddha, Krishna, whatever. But when there's not that component to it and you're not as tuned into like energy and all of that, it doesn't prevent you from healing, but it can make your process a little bit slower. So my point in saying all of that is I do feel like the connection to what's greater than us is a really powerful component to the type of healing that we do. And we can't just have just that. As human beings, we also need to have the mental component and the actual getting into the nitty gritty, digging in the dirt type of component. Because, like, for me, when I would go to church, I would have like all these beautiful, amazing experiences. but I'd still get back into old patterns. It wouldn't like always fully boost me out of that holding pattern. But then when I would do healing work or I would try different therapy modalities, it wouldn't always stick if I didn't also have that connection to higher power. So I think that the merriment that we do in our type of work is like the super powered version, if that makes sense. Do
Yes,
you
yes,
agree?
yes. I just worked with a 10-time world dance champion a few months ago. He's the guy in West Coast and country, and he's really into personal growth, of course. I mean, he's the guy, um, probably the best teacher in the world. I've had a lot of my teachers say, and he was like, Lance, this was like the coolest, funnest weekend. This was like a spiritual connection with like mental performance. Oh my God. No wonder you can't explain this to people. It was like a masterpiece. He goes, and this is what he said. I thought was so great. He goes, Lance, what you guys do is you bring the best out of everything and you just like bring it in a nice slice of cake, man. Like just easy to eat, easy to understand. You're taking the best of all pieces of all these modalities. Because guys, that's what integrative psychology is. Integrative, integrate, right? Integrative
Yeah.
modalities of psychology. Like it sounds all fancy, but it just means like, oh, we tried a bunch of stuff. We integrated all these tools and techniques to like what works. Okay, they tried something called a swish 4 or 5 different ways. It's just another tool or technique, right? They tried
Mhm.
it starting the bottom and then the top and then using hands and then visualizations, right? And they worked it. I mean, some of the main guys that we work with, he manages 28,000 active clients. He has 10 doctorates, right?
Mhm.
Dr. Kuma Patrick, man, and he's the leader of the board, so they're bringing in all the best of the stuff that they can find and being able to actually test it, not
Mhm.
just some, oh, I pull out of a cereal box, No, I have 28,000 active clients. We trying this stuff, man. Yeah, well, this stuff works,
Yeah.
and then obviously Dr. Matt, one of our mentors, gets that feedback from him and gets to adjust it, and then we get to learn from these mega dudes and give you guys what they charge hundred thousands of dollars, for, nothing near that much.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first walked into my first training of like the fundamental basics of NLP, I was like, this is where I need to be. This is the right place. It combines all of these different tools. They have this Hawaiian type of ancient healing thing that at the time I didn't know anything about, but I'm like, this feels so good. I don't know if you have this experience, you can tell me if you do, but there's like a draw that I had, a magnetism to it. And I feel like clients that find me or that are drawn to me, they have a similar draw, but they can't comprehend it. They don't know exactly what it is, but they're like, I need that. I want that. Does
Oh,
that
well,
happen for you
oh yeah,
too?
I would love to. I'll show you my favorite draw story of my life. There's quite a few. I've had some pretty, I've been pretty lucky seeing some I like to call mini miracles in my life
Mm,
pretty often. So one of my favorites though was, and those who obviously don't know my background. So my dad was known as the Western Ambassador of Dallas. My family actually helped represent Dallas. We worked with Google, Twitter, Cars.com, Bon Jovi, Elton John, Kevin Hart, Ice Cube, Porsche, bunch of stuff. So a bunch of bigger events would come to Dallas. They come to the Western store. You give them some boots, beer, whatever, cowboy hat, sell them on the city. So it made sense to me doing that forever that would be my thing to do or go. Well, out of the 20 years of a lot of arguments and communication on my family, it still never felt right, right? The pulling I had was opposite. I don't want to be in Dallas anymore. I'm so sick of I want to be in nature. This is my kind of person. I want to be more about people that are holistic and healing, not so businessy. I love business. I know I run a couple companies. Don't get me wrong, but I just want more of a grounded person, from that. So I had to really stretch that. And, this business was very successful, multiple generations. Very hard to let go when you don't have another job. You've been there your whole life.
mhm,
So, but I had so much of a draw and so much of a resistance that I remember even going to the store. Also, I was getting like sick and nauseous and just angry, and I just kept fighting it until it just got so bad, and I was like, I just want to throw up being here. And my family made fun of me. They kind of, poked at me and, oh, you're so lucky and you're just spoiled in some stuff. And I thought they were right. So what did I do? Put my head back in it. Put my head back in. Put my head back in. Can anyone else relate? I hope so. I can. Shoot, man. Beating your head at the wall and like, why won't it open? It's like it's a brick wall, man. This is the
Yeah.
reason, you know. So what happened? The cool part of the story, right, is I tell my folks I'm finally done. I remember I was Just told I'm done. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm done, as in I'm done, as in sell it, done. Like, what are you gonna do, man? I'm like, well, I'll never forget. I said, well, all I know is that this is getting in the way of me knowing what I'm supposed to do next. So I have to let it go.
Wow. It gives me
Now check,
chills.
now check this out, guys. Less than 24 hours. This is people love this story in the classroom because they're such Huna fans. We talk about like, this connection. But basically, I'm at the back of a boat. We're doing a double-decker party boat, 100 people, bikinis, barbecue, beer, cowboy hats, big old double-decker boat, right? Having a good time. Music, we're dancing. And I just remember, maybe I've had a beer or two, something like that, right? Nothing wild. Everyone else is partying pretty hard. I'm chilling. And I remember I get this pulling though. The pulling was so hard. I'll never forget, it passed my mental. Because I remember I instantly turned around and I felt this cord in my solar plex. And I just started like walking like very straightforward to this back of this boat. And I remember hearing like, "What are you doing?" And I say back to myself, "I don't know. What are we doing?" And then I hear, "Well, if you don't know and I don't know, who's going on? Who's driving the ship? Shoot, what's happening?"
Metaphorically and physically.
I'm telling you. And all of a sudden I get a hit and I said, "This is Holy Spirit." And
Mm.
I jumped back to church and it was the same feeling of like this leading, this knowing um, that I have something for you, like something beautiful for you. And you just need to like follow that. And as I did, I walk up to this girl who's literally doing energy work on someone who just has her hand out. And I just look at her and I said, "I don't know who you are or what you're doing, but you can't lie to me because I feel stuff. And I just felt something over here." And we still laugh about it because it's so awkward. We're still friends. She actually just got married. She's doing so well. But yeah, so I'm like, what are you doing? I know, yeah, I feel energy. I pray with people a lot. I work with people. I do a lot of it, this stuff and this background. She's like, "Oh my God, that's so cool. I used to be a family counselor and I have a master's degree in it. And I barely get any results." I was like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, but ever since I found this like NLP, MER, these breakthrough sessions, man, I don't just get results. I get wild results every time. That's what you should go do."
Wow. Oh my God. Full body chills.
And as I was driving home, I remember praying to myself and I said, "Wow, Lord, I was driving you down here and I was really angry because I felt like you abandoned me. Could you just tell me what to do?" Like the next day, and I just heard back, "Yeah." And then instead of being grateful, I got pissed. I said, "Wow, what took you so long? Stuff I tried." I start like to myself as I'm driving, like I feel like a crazy guy just talking to myself as I'm driving. And I hear back in my own spiritual way, whatever it was, however that happens. I heard back, "Lance, I've been waiting for you. You didn't notice I showed up the next day? Your foot's never, you've had one foot in, one foot out. You've never committed. You finally committed. Now I'm able to use you."
Mm. Yes, that's so good. I'm like, yes. I just feel it. I can feel it in my core. I'm like,
Yeah, it's so
yes.
good. I just, it's such a beautiful moment of like when I chose, guys, when we choose to release and let go and empty that hand is now able to receive something new. But
Mm.
that faith there, and we get mad at God or whatever of like, "Oh, you're not there," and wow, 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 wow. Oh, hey, how about
Mhm.
maybe it's us? Lance, well, you're still your dad's store. I can't use you. You're supposed to be in Colorado. I mean, I can't use you there. You feel
Mhm.
sick. How else can I talk to you about it? You don't
Mhm.
want to be there. You hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. You keep
How else
doing
are you
things
going
that
to
you
force it?
hate.
But again, right, we think sometimes, "Oh no, we got to force it and put it in the box and fit that square in the round hole or whatever." But something I love talking to my clients about is that there's a difference between breaking through a barrier and this ain't your way.
Mm.
It's not
Mhm.
your path. You're going on the wrong path versus no, it's time to kick some ass and work, dude. Get to put some
Yeah.
action,
Yeah.
right? Versus
Oh
this is
yeah.
just not your girl, dude. Like no,
Yeah.
not the one to date.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I experienced that. I was just working with a client last week and she bless her heart, she was in an engagement. She didn't know if this was fully her partner. It was a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion and not knowing. And I could feel some things intuitively, and I was guiding her through the process of her becoming more herself, and releasing what needs to get out of the way in order for her to have clarity to make the decision. Like, I'm not going to tell her, like, well, you need to be with this person or you don't. You're going to make a commitment to this person for the rest of your life and you'll be happy or miserable. That's not my call to make. But I was
Oh,
helping get things out of the way for her to listen to her own knowing. And lo and behold, she makes a decision. They don't get married. She has separated from him. And now she is actually coming back home to herself. Like, she's
love it.
way more in her feminine energy. She's one of the top performing people in one of the Fortune 500 companies in New York and is crushing that. And now she has boundaries. Right before, she like was getting run over time and time again by so much of the work and all the stress and all the people that needed her in all these different directions. And she's now setting boundaries. She's coming back home to herself. So to your point, like, are you supposed to break through a barrier, or are you just being shown that you're just not on the right path? That was an example of, like, I'm not going to say that she was on the quote unquote wrong path, because I do believe everything that we experience can be used for our benefit. And at the end of the day, if you're prevented from being yourself and you just can't get in the groove of that, there might be a quote unquote roadblock that's actually a sign that says you're supposed to go this way, not through, not go around, but just turn left instead of trying to keep pushing, 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 resisting, 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 resisting. That just, that doesn't help. That, in my opinion, and you can tell me if this feels true for you and what you've experienced with people, when you just push and you push and you push and you push, it's like you just get beaten up over and over and over again, and you're just not feeling the nuances of, like, oh, I actually need to go in this direction instead.
Oh, so much, gosh, so much good there. So yeah, a few things to my mind. One is I had a client like that recently too. She was married for 6, 7 years, and she said, "Well, I'm thinking about, breaking with my husband." And I was like, "Hey, man, don't point no fingers at me. And that's not, this. Remember, what we're doing here is we're helping you discover yourself. It's very different than some talk therapy, which is great because you got to talk and share. But then it needs to be a result. So I don't care who you see, if they are talk therapists, you need a result, right? You need something tangible that's long lasting at the end of the day. Yeah, she had where she was one of the top Keller Williams girls in all of Texas or something, like top 100 or whatever. And dude, she went from to nothing. And she said her husband basically was treating her so bad that once her and her son both had COVID, so sick that they collapsed on the stairs and he would just like walk over them.
God,
And so I remember he
tragic.
said, well, I said, look, there's no way I can tell you what to do, nor should you put the responsibility of me saying something was why you made a decision. You need to make a decision. I'm just asking you to imagine 10 years from now, are you okay with being treated this way? If
Mm-hmm.
not, something has to change. If you no longer want to be treated this way, you have to decide what that change is. I don't know what that is. Is it
Right.
boundaries? Is it some family counseling? Does he do a breakthrough with me? I don't know. You know him. And then, yeah, I mean, after the breakthrough session, she was like, done with this loser, whatever. And she's like, I was like, okay, and she just like, is a totally different person. She's crushing it. She's just seeing pictures of these hot guys she's dating. She's been doing real estate again. She's got her own place. I mean, yeah, she's crushing it now. And yeah, I mean, I think about behavioral flexibility. I think about there's no failure, only feedback, how we just
Mm-hmm.
look at that. No, I'm not going to fail the relationship, guys. We're here to grow and evolve. We're here to spiral up. At the end of the day, though, let's look at some. I actually shared this with a client earlier. I love talking about like a dating analogy. I was like, look, man, if you keep pulling the same type of girl, or hey, sweetheart, if you keep pulling in the same type of abusive guy, you can't keep just pointing to the guy. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you've pulled in the same dude, the 10 different names, but don't look kind of the same and act the same and kind of be the same. It's the same story. Well,
Yeah.
there's probably something in you that's attracting that energetically that needs to be healed. Therefore, that magnetism that happens in this quantum world detaches and no longer
Right.
starts attracting that anymore because you have surpassed that. Same thing too when we outgrow friends, guys. I'm so glad I heard this recently. It actually really helped me. He said, guys, as we grow and evolve, especially if you're challenging yourself and you're an entrepreneur and you own multiple business and your personal growth, which we're in all that. He said, if you're just in a few of that, we're in all that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to surpass people. And not that means you're better than them. You're not going to click anymore. You're going to have different topics, different things. It's like if you have a kid all of a sudden and If your best friend doesn't, you're not going to have that conversation. So, it's okay for things to change, but you want to keep that spiraling up and not stick in the same place because you keep getting the same feedback. Boy or girl, it's you. I'm sorry. It's us. It's us if this keeps happening. Now, does everything in the world, a frog jump past me, it means I need to do something? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. I mean, that's a lot of thinking, though. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
So I used to get stuck on that. It really bothered me. I'm like, well, now I'm just like running paranoid. I'm like, I saw this snail. Like, does it mean I'm too slow in my, I was like, no, it's too much,
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much. But we get some consistency or something that's definitely been repeated. Absolutely. Is it like time and the whole like how you do one thing is how you do everything? Well, truth to that. Yeah, I've
Hmm.
noticed how I even I've been going through a 6 month dating program, which has been great. Just challenging me to get out of my comfort zone. And one of the things I noticed was a lot of my corporate background in selling was coming out in the dating, and I didn't realize. So I was like
Right.
pitching these girls and trying to sell myself all the time. And like you said, that was a push, though, right? Trying to
Hmm.
force it and push it. I didn't even realize I was doing that. I got
Right.
thousands of hours of. I even went to college for speaking, guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty good at it, and I have a gift for it, and I'm screwing up. So it's all good.
Oh, I love that. Isn't it sometimes so funny how like our greatest gifts can be our Achilles heel and like shoot us in the foot in some area of our life?
Amen to that. That's right.
Yeah. I on that topic of like I used to actually see snails a lot and I had the exact same experience. I'm not even kidding. I'm not just saying that to like make it funny, but I literally had snails go through my pavement when I used to live in
don't think I've ever said the
California.
word snail in like 4 years. That's
I
really,
know, I
this is
know.
pulling
It
that out of
was
nowhere.
so weird. And I'm like, man, I
Wow.
wonder if these are showing me that I'm like too slow in this area or that I need to slow down. I was
Oh
like
yeah,
getting
you slow down.
so,
No,
I
yeah.
need to slow down. Oh my God. Okay. I saw a snail. That means I need to slow down.
More
Yeah.
meditation. Meditation.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely had to take a step back from that. I feel like that's a phase that I've gone through. I notice people go through when they're up leveling and getting to more self-awareness. I feel like self-awareness is really the gateway to like having all of these buzzwords like higher consciousness and become more of yourself and be more authentic, like all of these different keyword buzzword stuff. I feel like the key to getting through that door really is like self-awareness. And when you become so self-aware that you think that everything has something to do with a sign or it means something, angel numbers, I was really into that for a really long time. Like, oh my God, it's 11. I think that I sent you a text at 111 and I was reminded like, oh my God, you're right. I love angel numbers. Those are so cool. I do believe that those are like synchronistic and time and numbers and all that. I'm kind of getting on a tangent here, but to your point, I feel like um, we don't have to take everything so literally and seriously, but on that same token, like you said, I like how you said it, where it's like if something's repeatedly showing itself to you over and over and over again, then that's an indication that something is going on inside of you that needs to be healed. It doesn't mean that it needs judgment. It doesn't mean it needs criticism. It doesn't mean it needs to be rejected or to be abandoned or to be hurt. It means that that part needs to be seen. It needs to be acknowledged and it needs to
Yes.
be healed.
And it's not even you.
Right.
It's not even us, guys. That's a huge thing that finally clicked for me. Oh, I'm not this anger, this feeling, or this emotion. I can't because if I'm experiencing it and witnessing it, therefore it's a objective thing, right? So at the end of the day,
Hmm.
so as we practice that too of pulling away and watching and not being always led by the mind, right? But being in charge. We like to say too that those who don't know, like being at cause versus being at effect. Well, if I'm being at cause, I'm literally choosing. Versus effect is like, oh, it's everyone else's fault. It's everything else. It's not about me. Oh no, I'm amazing. And who wants to hear on that person? I mean,
Right.
who doesn't ever apologize or points fingers and all that? No. Hey, I apologize. Please forgive me. Let me work on some communication. Did I not speak my boundaries? How can I help, you feel more valuable? How can we express love to each other? Communication, guys, and like you said, and why breakthroughs are so powerful because it's that self-understanding of you. You guys, we gotta know about ourselves first before we can give people feedback on how to treat us. Hello?
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. You need to know how you treat you, because how you treat you is how you'll train other people, whether you're aware of it or not, how they treat you.
Oh,
Like
you know, that's
you
it.
are at the center and the seat of power of what you are experiencing. And I do think that sometimes that message is a little bit hard to receive, like taking the feedback of responsibility of like, oh, it's not that I was at fault for this, but I was at cause for this. I had the ingredients necessary to create this experience or witness this whatever. I remember very specifically Dr. Kamuma talking about this exact principle in our training. And I mean, this was like a really long time ago, so I'm going to do my best to recapture it. But he was talking about like, an experience as tragic and horrible as, let's say, like a natural disaster, like a hurricane or the fires that just happened in LA, or even,
Abuse, physical, mental.
yeah, those types of things. It's not because you are a bad person or that you're like at fault for it. And the being at cause principle is to state that not everything that you have in your reality is your fault or your doing. However, there's a vibration or an energy or something inside of you that has allowed you to see that outside of you so that you can interpret it as data and information to then heal whatever's inside of you that's attracting that type of experience or witnessing that type of something. Now, somebody who experienced the LA fires might be like, well, F you, like I didn't expect or want to experience all this grief and all this loss and all these different things. And I'm like, is there some part of you that needs to heal grief? Did you have a loss earlier in your life that you've never been able to let go of? And now your soul created this experience for you to have like 10 times higher of a loss so that you could process the grief that you never let yourself feel before. Like that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's everyone's case, but that's what I'm trying to get at here. When like we come into this life and our souls have a blueprint and plan, and we have different wounds that we come in with and a different pattern and way of being, the intention really is to heal ourselves to become more of who we really are and be able to see outside of us. That's actually supposed to help you. Like witnessing something as horrible and tragic as your house burning down. I know that that's hard to say, like, well, that was supposed to help me. Like, F you, get off my back, But it's like, at the end of the day, if you can shift to that type of vibration, that experience, and you can use that situation, though it's a negative experience, and you can use it in a positive way to benefit you in some way, that's the powerful mindset. And that's how you get through these like really challenging experiences in life that you wouldn't naturally and normally think were to serve you in some way. Like that happened to me with my illness in 2023. I was paralyzed over and over again. I couldn't move, I couldn't speak. It was horrible in all of the senses of the term. Like it was a terrible experience, and I would never wish that upon anybody. But what it did was allowed me to actually show how powerful I am to myself, not other people. I didn't really want anybody to know what was happening to me, but I could prove to myself that I have the strength and the willpower and I have all the tools to be able to heal myself, and that that's actually possible. So now I get to be like a living case study, an example of like, this shit really works, guys. Like, it's not just a pie in the sky that we talk about. Like, we actually do this for and with ourselves and with our people. And when we have a congruency and a belief that this works, that's what makes it work.
So many good things there. I was actually going to say too, even just seeing you now, because it's been a while since we've seen each other face to face, like you just look so much more congruent and so much color and like so much just solidness in you now, which is really neat to see.
Thank you. I've been working very hard on it. I think that's the thing too, that, we in our culture, we want really quick things. Like we want, and I am totally guilty for this, like we just want the millennials, I think especially, we want the instant gratification, we want the thing now, we want the quick tool, we want the 5-minute thing. And while we do have that, we have those tools that are like boom, we can like get rid of a lifetime of trauma in 30 minutes or whatever. There's also the healing process is that it's a process. We do a breakthrough session. That doesn't mean that your work is over. That doesn't mean that you're totally healed from everything in your whole life. Like life is a continuum and you get to experience it through time, and you're going to have ups and downs. I work with people for long periods of time, depending on what they're wanting to work through, because they might have like a lot of stuff on their goal list. And I, without fail, over the last 6 to 8 years, without fail, when I have witnessed people through their journey and on their path, they've got ups and downs. Everyone has those. It's like
Um,
it's not bad or wrong for you to have ups and downs. So like I was in a low period when I had my illness. That was a big freaking down. But now I've been on the come up and it's like, great. Now, I get to be on top of my mountain. And I call them valleys and mountains because valleys are beautiful and mountains are beautiful. Being on the top is an amazing experience. Being down on the bottom and looking up at like the potential that you could climb up is also amazing. So we don't need to have judgment around it being good or bad, right or wrong. This is where I want to be, this is where I don't want to be. Sometimes it's helpful to evaluate and establish and determine like where you're at and where you want to go. But at the end of the day, when you've got these ups and downs, like they're all valuable, in my opinion.
they all are, especially if, I mean, when I tell people who want to, maybe fight that or whatever and go, no, or, ignore it, or no, that was just bad or whatever it is. It's like, okay, well then you basically are just do that about everything, I guess. Now what? I mean, now what? Right
Right.
now you have no options to learn. You're just going to say you're stuck and life's all bad or whatever. Well, there's no option there now.
Hmm.
I love what like Tony Robbins says, right? If we believe it's happening for us instead of against us, game over, we win. And
Right.
we can stick on that, like, all right, cool. Well, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? I was thinking too, I don't think you even know this about me, but my dad and I both were known as being very dyslexic, ADD, ADHD, dysgraphia, other labels of things and whatnot. We had to go to special ed rooms. I even hung out with people that had quite severe issues, which, bothered me. Coming from a family that runs three companies, like, oh, I'm being put in these special ed rooms. My dad couldn't read till he was in his mid 30s. Felt very
Wow.
stupid, very dumb, So yeah, is that a fun thing? Not necessarily. Is it fun that I have to study three times harder than my friends and still make it a C? No, let me tell you, that's not very fun in high school.
Hmm.
Is it fun to go to all your Saturdays? You have to go to special ed places to teach you how to spell? That's not very fun. How about brain probes stuck to your head to teach you how to focus? Yeah, I did
Hmm.
that. Well jelly in my head, brain probes shit, like teaching me how to focus. It's called a cricket game. Really, this cricket would jump as I would focus. It would teach me how to use my like focus and not be so like distracting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, though, I'll never forget. I did that for a couple of months, and I remember, and I went, "I don't need to go back anymore, Mom." She goes, "What do you mean?" I went, "I don't know. I can do it now." And like, it taught me how to, focus. And with that embarrassment, with that frustration, well, one more I'll say to tie it together. When I really realized the benefit I had with my family and this dyslexia stuff and everything was this one day in college. I'm flirting with this girl, thought she was cute. She wore these glasses, cute little nerdy girl, dark hair. Uh, and I was chatting with her, just trying to, start a conversation. So I said, "Hey, you excited for the test? You gonna study a lot?" She's like, "No, I don't need to study." I go, "Oh, okay, that's cool. Are you just really good at Excel, I guess?" She goes, "Yeah, that's actually I got a full ride scholarship because I'm so good at Excel and numbers and things." I was like, "Oh, wow, that's cool." She goes, "Yeah, I've actually never had to study for a test." I go, "Well, never?" She goes, "No." You know what my response was? I said, "I feel bad for you." First time she ever heard that, I bet.
I bet so.
And she goes, "What do you mean?" I went, "I just realized something. I've had to do my whole life three times, four times, maybe five times harder than you." She goes, "Well, that's not true." I went, "You sure? You just told me you never studied. Let me tell you, I have studied crazy hours." So, oh yeah. But then I said, "But you know what? When you've given up, it's probably when I've just first started.
Yeah.
So much grit I have put in me, I will I will now annihilate. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna run over people now, like because I had to learn me. I had to, the embarrassment of the special classes, having to learn to study a certain way, had to draw pictures and do funny stories because that's how it would stick for me. And I had to figure it out and all the frustration of being angry at myself and why I can't be a normal person and why am I so different? Why do I feel emotions so intensely? Why do my
Mm,
parents, who's a dad who's an amazing pastor and a healer, so angry at home? Well, I look back now, hmm, I'm now using all of it
mhm,
so well too, of these travels that I did and living in Australia, New Zealand, and I was introduced into personal growth and development, how my parents still had massive arguments. So I would help as a kid, like trying to talk it out, try to help figure it out. I got very emotionally intelligent. Was that fun to listen to my dad scream at me for 5 hours? No, it was not. When you're 15, let me tell you, it is not. But but what can we take from it, guys? What can we learn, gather? My dad always, I mean, my dad and I, we're great buddies now. We just had issues back then, but we talk all the time. Yeah, Lance, eat the chicken, throw away the bones, man. We gotta toss the bones, man. You know, he always like, you're sorry I was rough with you, Lance. You gotta toss the bones. Try to remember the good times that we played catch. So I
Mm,
was so mean, man. I was really hurting. I was helping everybody else. I don't know how to help myself. I know, Dad. You didn't know, man. It's all good. I see it now. Sorry for the
mm,
pieces of me not seeing you as a human. Blaming you.
right. That's what's so powerful too. Like I love your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing that and really like letting yourself open to that because I think it's so relatable to so many people and a lot of what I find prevents myself and other people that we work with from getting to the next level of healing themselves, being more themselves, having more of what they want, doing more of what they want, being who they want, all of that good stuff is that piece, is being able to see everyone around them as other human beings, especially our parents. I feel like we have, and I don't mean to say we because I'm projecting, but I mean like in general, I feel like a lot of people, and I say this because I've worked with a lot of people that have this, we like idolize our parents and think that they're supposed to be this way, that way, and the other way, and that they need to be these perfect specimens of how they behave and how they act. And when we're teenagers and kids, like, we don't understand things. And sometimes, if we don't go down the path of self awareness and of personal development and growth and all that, we still can't get there to really understand that everyone around us is just human. More often than not, they're doing the best they can with what they have and the
Yep.
tools at the time because I have similar stories where in my childhood, the story that my inner child took from my childhood was all of this like horrible trauma that happened to me. And as I've healed and I'm able to rewrite that story, I actually genuinely believe through what we've learned with MER and the tools that we use and just other things I've studied and the ways of being that I believe, I do genuinely believe we can rewrite those experiences. And so my childhood has now been rewritten to reflect the person that I am today. So
Oh,
my
it makes so much sense, man. I think about how with my dad, I look back now and maybe 10 years ago, I'm like, yeah, dad's an asshole who's obsessed with money. That's my childhood. Always money,
Mhm.
three businesses. We never, we always made jokes. There's no dinner table, only business table. And now I get to
Right.
look back healed. My dad and I are doing business still together today. I mean, he's a master practitioner now. He's gone to HUNA. He
Oh,
wants to,
really? Oh my
yeah, he wants
gosh.
to go trainer's training now this
That's
next year.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, mom did too. Mom did HUNA and Master Prac. They both loved it, got
Wow.
some out of it. Yeah. So we were already doing like, gonna start doing bigger corporate stuff pretty soon, like doing breakthrough sessions for corporations, like the major guys. But um,
That's amazing.
yeah.
No, I love that. I feel like for me too, the first time that I did Ho'oponopono in the version and the way that we do it, the forgiveness process, the Hawaiian forgiveness process, it's not like the traditional Americanized version of like, I'm sorry, thank you, I love you. What was the fourth one? I forget how the American version does it. Sometimes I'll do that. But the way that we do it, that we've been taught, that was so profound for me. My first experience, I can remember if I like close my eyes, I'm back in that moment. And I did Ho'oponopono with my mom and my dad separately. And it was so, so profound for me that I was finally able to express like this is the way that I felt. I felt hurt. I felt rejected. I felt unseen. I felt unheard. I felt abandoned. I felt all of these different crazy things that was like chaos and just turmoil inside of me that was reflecting in my life as an adult in my early 20s at the time. And in my teenage years. And as I was able to like let go of holding all of those grudges and be able to forgive them and forgive myself, that was really like what spurred me to be like, oh my God, this stuff is so freaking powerful. I think that forgiveness is one of the most, if not the most powerful experiences that we can do as humans. And sometimes it's the hardest. But that's just what makes it so potent and powerful is because it's not just the easiest thing that you can do, like left, right, center. It's like this is what you do in order to be able to see people for who they are and to humanize your parents instead of deify them. And recognize that you as a soul came into this life with specific wounds and patterns, like I was saying earlier, that are not other people's fault and they're not your fault. Like I used to have a really strong victim mentality that's like, oh, everyone's hurting me and everyone blah blah, like I need attention, blah blah, and it was very annoying. I was annoyed with myself. And as I was able to release a lot of those layers of the victimhood and needing the attention and wearing the mask of dependency and having a wound of abandonment and all of that stuff, it helps me see oh, my parents actually feel abandoned by me at times. My parents feel rejected by me at times. They feel betrayed by me at times. So it's not just them having done it to me. There's a converse energy exchange that's happening, and I'm not totally innocent either.
Yes, and I want to add to that, guys, who's listening, that's why when you heal, you no longer redo the programming or the system or the thing because you've done that, healing process, and then they won't even be able to do it because they'll kick into their old gear and you'll just be like, oh, I'm good. Oh, but and you're like, oh, well, have a nice day. And they're like, oh, I don't know what to do now. And that
Right.
actually really makes them rewire themselves because you're not helping them just go down the same slope of the snow hill.
Right. Yeah, it's like I think of it like tracks. If you're driving down tracks, and let's just say for sake of example, your parents are driving down the same tracks, but you're driving at each other, right? When you're on the same track of the same wound or wearing the same masks or even wounds that maybe trigger each other, and I'm using this language because of a book I recently read, but it's obviously very centered around the work that we do. But if we're on the same track, when you heal, you shift to a different track, so you're not heading face on for a collision with that person in whatever way, shape, or form that means to you. You're on a different track, and that allows them to shift to a different track where you can actually just pass by each other more calmly and peacefully, and it doesn't have a big chaos component to it.
I would love to add something here. I remember when my dad and I first realized what you're saying. I didn't even realize what we realized till you just said it now, basically. But I remember my dad came and visit me to when I was living in Australia, New Zealand. I was there about a year. I was about to come home. My dad was like, "Man, I've always wanted to, come to Australia." I was like, "Well, I'm here, Dad. Like, why don't we do like a rebonding thing? You just come out for a few weeks." And he's like, "All right," And he flew out, and we had, some really serious heart-to-heart talks, some pretty serious arguments, some, pretty firm yelling that came up and whatnot. And then what we ended on, though, at the end of the day was like, we didn't realize how much miscommunication there was happening. And we both said that we have to agree now that we both know we want the best for each other. So if there's something happening that doesn't seem to be coming across that way, it's a communication problem, not a
Mm,
personal issue. Changed
yes.
Massively changed it. We stop all the time now. No, I love you. No, I'm not listening to this. I'm not gonna listen. I love you, so you being angry and doing this ain't gonna no. I'm gonna do this, man. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you on like today. I saw my dad on his LinkedIn. Hey man, like Lance, you're getting mad at me. Sorry, man. I'm just frustrated. I'm human. I've done a bunch of work on myself, but I still, have my frustrations and like, hey, but I'm sorry, Dad. I'm here to help you, man. I was just trying to help you. My bad. He's like, oh yeah, that's right. You were right. Yeah, man. I was just trying to help. I can see how I came across rude. That's my bad.
Mhm. Yeah,
We're,
taking ownership
we're
too.
cutting it, man. We're just cutting it so fast now. It used to be hours. Now it's seconds.
Right. That's the thing. Like we cut it down. We cut, I guess, what we would call conflict or discrepancies, miscommunications, errors, like the icky feelings that we might experience. When we heal, those shrink and they might not always necessarily completely disappear. That's for your soul to determine if that's on your
Yeah,
path.
some do, some don't. Some are layers, some go right away. I mean, that's a whole who knows on that, like for different reasons and layers and things.
Right. Yeah, I have found specifically when I do MER with somebody or we're doing an NLP process where I'm questioning them, and I love using the Cartesian logic. I know you were showing me a really amazing manual that you're coming up with, and you have this Cartesian logic of what would happen if this did happen, what would happen if this didn't happen, what wouldn't if this thing did happen, what wouldn't happen if this thing didn't happen. It's like a positive, 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 negative, negative, positive, negative,
Oh,
negative. Um,
very good.
I
Right.
love I love Cartesian logic, but when we do those things, we ask ourselves those questions, we go through these processes, it will trim down our conflict or our discomfort or the things that we don't like experiencing, which gives us room and space to have
Yes.
more of what we would like to have. Like in your relationship with your father, you have more of an experience now of what you would like to have, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not tip top, and sometimes you still push each other's buttons and frustrate each other. That happens to me and my mom and my dad and literally everybody in my life. Like there's still little things here and there that's like, it's not perfect, but we're not asking for perfect. We're asking for progress so
Yeah.
that you have
Perfect
more
doesn't exist.
space.
Perfect literally does not exist. It is completely made up. We
Yeah.
all have different realities of what we think is beautiful and awesome. I mean, how else can everyone marry each other? There's no perfect. It doesn't exist, guys. It's just like I love what you said. No perfect. It's all progress. It's all information coming in.
Totally
Yeah,
agree.
I love what you said too. We shorten it. We trim it down. And I love what you said even today too. It makes me think back like, wow, Lance, that's right. Give yourself more grace, dude. You used to yell at your dad for 2 or 3 hours. Y'all used to get each other's throats. Now it's minutes. Like, and if that, sometimes I don't even like. The other day I was like, I'm hanging up. You're up mad today. I'm up. I'll call you tomorrow. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we
When you're
call
on
you
that
fine
different
tomorrow.
track, when you're on a different track, it's like you just don't engage because you don't need the lessons from that experience anymore. You already got the lesson. You're like, oh, I don't engage with this behavior. So I'm going to set it aside. You're not like, that's something that I think is like, oh, I just really want to like drive this point home because it's helped me so much. A lot of what I do with people is what's really helped me. I'm like, I'm on this like self-healing journey, and because I progress and I grow and I, become more of myself, I want that for other people so bad. Like my soul is just so driven. My why is like, I want people to experience the life that they love to live. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it looks like, what it sounds like or feels like, but I want them to have that. And I've continually made it for myself to have, or I've made it such that I can have it myself. And that's the thing. Like when you're on the different track, you don't need the lesson to heal that wound anymore. You've already healed it. So when it shows up in your life or your reality, it's almost like it's not that you become blind to it, but you pass it by. You say no to it. It's not like a yes, let's engage. It's like, oh, I'm noticing this thing. I've already learned my lesson from that. I don't need it anymore. That happens a lot in relationships. If I work with women that are dating a certain type of guy over and over again, when they finally learn the lesson of whatever wound or whatever part of themselves that person is showing them or reflecting to them, they're like, oh, light bulb, I don't need that kind of person anymore. I'm ready
Yep.
for something
There you
different.
go. That too, that's why we could be a cause again, right? Oh, let's look inward. What can we change? What boundaries can we hold? You know, I love boundaries too. It's such a good we could do a whole nother podcast entirely on just boundaries, man.
We should, yes.
That's right. One thing I wanted to mention too, boundaries one of my favorite things I learned in Master Prac. We were mentioning about like, the change afterwards too. I was picturing whenever I first had a breakthrough session and everyone everyone saw a difference. Even my mom was like, "Oh my God, you look so different." And my voice, I'll never forget, was like really low, like afterwards. I came
Yeah.
out, "Hello, everyone. How are you?" Like, "Oh my gosh, Lance, what happened?" I was like, "I don't know. My voice is like low." Like, why? I'm like, "I don't know. I just feel relaxed. Like, I don't know what happened. Does this shit actually work?" And then she reread back like my original breakthrough. I'm like, I don't feel any of that. Well, Dad is an asshole, but that's fine. Like, so am I. Whatever. Like it was such a different reaction to like all this, frustration I had. It was just amazing. And two, like we can accomplish that. Like, what else can we do? Dr. Matt had one. I was watching one of his lives the other day. He said he had this one lady in Austin who had this like massive cricket phobia, like massive, massive. Like sometimes the boys would just say the word cricket. She literally would just like shiver and like get nauseous and all that.
Wow.
One 30-minute phobia model pattern and knocked it out. No reaction. Like,
Wow.
guys, what kind of energy does that save a person? Versus some talk
So
therapy,
much.
trying to talk out the crickets and try to figure. No, let's release the cricket. Let me breathe.
Yeah.
Cricket wants to be gone, man.
Yeah. Cricket wants to be gone. That should be like a slogan or a tagline for like a clothing
There you
company.
go.
Cricket wants to be gone. I love that. Well, this has been such an amazingly fun, vibrant, lively conversation. And I love just jamming on things that we do and why we do it, and really for the intention and purpose of helping other people who are tuned into this and listening to it. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, where would be a good place for them to find you?
Well, thank you. My website is Clarity Coaching Centers, ending with an S.com. I own the other one, but haven't had it merged yet. And that's it. It's Lance Dewbre, claritycoachingcenters.com. You can click a free call there. I always have a free 30-minute offer for whoever finds the site. So if you want to chat, be great. And of course, this amazing city is fantastic as well. You'll have an amazing lady here, very wise, spiritually in tuned woman. So you're in good hands.
Well, I see the same in you that you see in me. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And I would obviously so love to have you on the podcast again. So thank you for being here today.
Definitely. We'll do one about boundaries or something. We'll figure out a cool topic for sure.
Yes, I love it. All right, until next time.
All right, bye-bye.
If you love this episode and or maybe others that you've listened to, please leave a review wherever you're listening to this. Share it with somebody that you think it could help. That's the biggest way you can help me help even more people like us. And if you want one-on-one support, feel free to go to findinghomehealing.com and schedule an intro session with me there. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you in the next one.